In this episode, we sit down with our partners, Brad and Jay, to talk about grit, strategy, and the mindset it takes to build a business from the ground up. Brad and Jay began as neighborhood friends, both unsatisfied in their office jobs, and then set out to build a paving company. Through their time with Harbinger, they grew from $8 million to $25 million a year, and this past year, they actually sold their business. I'm excited for you to hear their story and learn from their wisdom. Enjoy. Thank you guys so much for coming in to do this podcast with us. Really appreciate it. And like I was explaining at lunch, our whole goal in doing this podcast is really just to provide inspiration to other business owners and allow them to hear other people's stories. So whoever wants to start us off, tell us the story of how Blackjack Paving came into existence.
It's you, Jay.
So in 2007, I was in the flooring industry, and Brad was in the enterprise rental car field. He's in that business. He was a regional manager. And we could see the changes were happening in both of our industries, and we were friends living in the same neighborhood, and, it cooked out and, had fun together. And we were both kicking off ideas because we felt like we were in a transitional period of our lives. And, so we were just kicking around different ideas of what maybe we could do. And we had a mutual friend in our neighborhood, and he had brought up the idea of that he had a parking lot maintenance company. And Brad went to go visit him, and Brad thought it was a really good idea. He brought it to me. He wanted me to go look at it, and I did. And Brad was, not hesitant on it, but I said, Brad, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. And he said, no, we're going to do it together. So that's kind of how it started. And we just felt that, when we met those guys, they had a pretty successful business, a little bit different than what our business ended up being. But Brad and I felt like we could do it better. And once we got into it, we just felt like there were things that we could do to advance that business.
So tell me more about the what it was that made you say, hey, I want to go start something new, like in that transitional period. What were you feeling or experiencing in your career at the time?
Well, with me, I was supplying huge home builders, and they would place their orders the year before. And in 2007, when we were basing their orders, they said, we're basically not going to order anything for 2008. So I was like, something's going to come down. Of course, I had no idea what it was going to be. It was going to be the greatest recession our country's ever had. But that was before. So I said, I got to figure out what I'm going to do to make a living. I got a family to support. So, and I was 100% commission too. So I was like, I got to figure this out.
What were you feeling in your career?
I had a very successful and great run with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I was with them for 15 years. And when we started, in fact, my father said, Enterprise what? He'd never heard of Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And I had to describe to him what kind of an organization it was. And by the time that I left, we were the number one rental car company in the world.
That's awesome.
So I witnessed that ride, and I was along with it. And with all that growth, in being in corporate America, it got very disenchanting because we were empowered, and it's a great company. And the training is fabulous, but we were empowered to do the right thing for the right reasons. And when you made a decision, the customer was first. Customer service was huge. It was a big focus on customer service and sales. Customer service, sales, work ethic, ethics in general. All the great basics, and we were empowered to make decisions based on that. By the time in a 15-year career, you had to ask permission to do what was right because it might not be perceived as right. So in a sense, someone had mentioned and put a bug in my ear, and it rang really loud because HR was running the business, and it was disenchanting. And I didn't want to relocate anymore. I had relocated a lot, and I landed in the Atlanta market, and I really enjoyed the southern hospitality and the climate, and was kind of wanted to settle. And that was piquing my interest to what am I going to do? So I started venturing out into other corporate avenues and great companies, and I was interviewing, and man, I had the words, I had the song and the dance. I had done it for 15 years. But I was selling something that it did not give me passion. It was like I was saying the right words, but I didn't want in that organization. It was going to be the same monster. And not in a bad way. It's just anybody that spends any amount of time in corporate America will soon find out how the machine works and how the machine changes. So I wanted to do something 100% on my own. I was reading franchise dummy franchise and dumbing books at the pool, and Jay would come by, and I'm trying to decide, where is my next passion and what am I going to do? Franchising, the more I researched it, the more it was like, man, the racket is the people making the money here are the people selling the franchise, not the people that are going in and making the sandwiches or whatever you might end up franchising in. And believe me, there's a lot of people who succeed at that game. So I'm not saying don't get into franchising. I do know people that are into franchising where they are the franchisee, and that is really the ticket. So if somebody wants to get into that, or if you have a business model that you can package up and brand and sell, and we've talked about that with Blackjack. As Blackjack got successful, we thought, can we wrap this up in a box? And can we, would that be an avenue for us to kind of step away from the actual production? Well, in our business model, it was massive to try to, it's not cookie cutter. Every parking lot's so different. The scope of work is so completely different that it was a very hard thing to put in one box and sell it to somebody else. So had a lot of people trying to come in and say, hey, can you help me get started, and can I use your name? And we experimented with some of that. I'm kind of getting off topic, but
no, that's helpful. Before you go too far away from the origin of the why you started, when you're thinking about all the different businesses you could start, I know you talked about visiting a company that kind of did that already, but what boxes were you looking for that company to check in terms of it has to be these things? Did y'all have that list? Or was it?
I had a mental list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mental list was and through life, you learn these things. I remember, expecting our children, and we go to the maternity store, and very successful maternity store, but it was I'm going to be here for 1, 2, maybe 3 children is all it was in. I had 2, but that's all that's in my wheelhouse. So how much repeat business does it? I thought her market was beautiful store. We bought a lot of stuff from her, but I thought, man, she's missing so many people that have purchasing power. But how many people are actually expecting a child in any given year? Yeah. And the percentage is very small. So that keyed me into thinking about what is it, why was Enterprise so successful? And the answer became very, very simple. Everybody needs a car. At that point in time, especially, there was no Uber or anything like that, which I'm sure they're battling today. But everybody needs a car. And if your car is broken down, you definitely need a car. Now you need one. And there's a lot more people in accidents or getting maintenance done. And that was kind of a niche that they got into. So your next question is probably going to be, why paving? Well, after I was kind of tipped off into believe me, I went to this lunch meeting, a breakfast meeting with an individual who was running a parking lot maintenance company. I didn't know what he was doing. I knew it had something to do with paving, and I had zero interest. I got up and went to that breakfast reluctantly and sat there and listened to the story. And the guy had been doing the seal coating and striping parking lots basically for 3 years. And he went from 0 to $3 million in 3 years. So I went and visited his facility to see, exactly what he was doing with that. And I just met his employees, and I was like, wow, as Jay was saying, we can do this so much better. The other thing, I drove home, he was on the north side of town, drove all the way through Atlanta, and everywhere I looked, there was asphalt. Everywhere. And I thought, that's it. That is absolutely it. And then I got to researching the industry even more, and to find out what's the industry missing. two things stuck out in my mind: customer service and professionalism. And I'm like, there it is. I can provide both of those. Didn't know how to pave a parking lot, and still to this day, really don't know how to pave a parking lot. I can tell you more about. I can tell you how it's put together, how to bid it, how to cost it, how it all breaks down. But I've never driven a paver. I've never driven a roller. And that was some of the challenges that Jay and I faced, as far as like the operations piece was a challenge that was big for us because it was outside of our wheelhouse. But we were marketing guys, customer service guys, and I really feel like we increased the professionalism.
Yeah. So I want to real quick, because this really made me consider the fact that y'all are still friends, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all started out as friends in a business. How many years has it been?
Well, 2007 was when we officially
started,
were
so that's
our
18
handshake
years.
deal.
18 years?
But
Yeah.
we were probably friends for 3 years before that.
So I mean, to start out friends, go through the business, all the way to now still be friends. My question is, when y'all started that business, I have to imagine there must have been some good conversations in the front end in terms of alignment of expectations to make it this far. So what was that conversation like to figure out, okay, can we do this together?
Well, to me, I think you have to think about what that time was. So when we really started going and we really started getting our first jobs, it was 2008.
Yeah.
So you got to think about what this country was going through at that time. There wasn't any time to be thinking about, our backs were against the wall. Yeah. We just had to figure out a way to make it work. So there wasn't, I think it was a lot less scientific than maybe what your question is asking. It's like everybody is rushing out of the burning building because they're over leveraged. They have too much debt. Brad and I are coming into the burning building, and we got to figure out how to get this done. So
talk about your poolside conversations, because I know y'all talk about that a lot. What were the conversations before we even got to 2008 that you guys knew you wanted to do this together?
Well, like I said, I mean, this was 2007 when we really started having these conversations, and I knew something was happening, and I knew what Brad was going through at Enterprise. So that's why there was this connectivity, and I think there's a lot of similarities. I think we're both that college educated. We like to have fun. We both come from a real strong sales background. We're able to communicate well and gain people's trust. I mean, we just had that sense of ourselves in that neighborhood. Would you agree on that, Brad?
Yeah, Mitchell, to answer that question, on my perspective, we didn't have a lot of conversations about the two of us going into business together. We had conversations about what he was thinking about and what I was thinking about, and what kind of businesses I was looking into and what kind of business he was looking into, and who he knew in what industry, and we were just having general. We weren't talking like, what can we do together? That really never came up until he said that he wanted to do what I was thinking about doing. And I was like, well, you can't do it without me. And we said, well, let's do it together. And my comfort level went up enormously. And a lot of it was because I respected him. I respected his insight. I respected his professionalism. I respected him as a person and being around him. And number two, it was like starting a business, something I'd never really, it's something that I decided that I wanted to do, but I was scared to death of how do you do it. And then all of a sudden I had somebody to do it with me. Yeah. And that relieved a lot of my anxiety. And it's like, we'll go down together. And instantly, I mean, I don't know, a lot of the people that, if anybody listens to this podcast, which probably, hi mom, hi dad.
Hi mom, hi dad.
People that are listening to this podcast, you know, if I mention the word cold calling, they probably don't even have a clue what I'm talking about. But literally, we used to go door to door. We would have target approaches. We knew who could possibly use our business, who had asphalt square footage. Those were the people we were targeting. But walking in unannounced, trying to get to the decision maker by yourself is intimidating. Having a partner and being able to every day, I mean, literally, we would drive around And we would have a target of 20 accounts that we were going to see. One day I would drive, one day he would drive. And the camaraderie was, the other side about it is motivation, because we were counting on each other. So there are many days that I wouldn't have been in that car out marketing if it was just my decision, because something would have distracted me. So it was lucky that I had him. He was lucky that I had, because I'm sure there was comfort level in that. And we had a lot of fun. But we would look at our phones, hold them, and say, what do we have to do to make you ring? Literally. And we were just going around and trying to get in front of the right people and trying to talk and handing out pamphlets and talking. And a lot of this, we didn't even own a piece of equipment at the time. We had a business card, we had a brand, we had a name, and we were selling ourselves as professionals in something we didn't. We educated ourselves on the industry off the internet.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, we literally went out and sold work before we even had an employee. We're like, if we can sell it, we'll figure out a way to get it done. And that's kind of how it went.
I tell a lot of the younger businesses we talk to, and it's advice that comes from my dad. He says that there's no problem so big in business that one good sale can't solve.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
if you can solve the problem
Yeah.
of selling,
Yeah.
you can fix everything else. So when y'all made that, I'm curious, when y'all are starting up the business, was there a big capital investment required from y'all to get that going, or did you say, hey, we're just going to build the brand, share the cost of that, and then when we get our first sale, we'll figure out what to do? It's like, how did that happen?
We both equally put in the money in, but it wasn't a significant amount of capital.
Yeah.
It was significant enough to keep most people out. The entry point is significant enough. Like once it came, we were like, okay, now we've got to.
Trucks are expensive.
Yeah.
Equipment. But I will say that in that stage, Brad was really the one that brought the concept of what he learned at Enterprise, of being, you don't go to just the one company. You go to the company that, like a insurance company, and he can explain it better than I can. And that insurance company has multiple customers to be able to rent cars to. So when he brought forth the idea of, we are going to not sell to the one-off, we're going to sell to the company like a Chick-fil-A that has multiple locations, and we're going to market to that one guy, and that one guy is going to be able to give us a lot of different properties to manage. That's when it really, I felt like it started to take off, was that concept. Because that property manager, he's managing HVAC, he's managing roofs, he's managing floors, plumbing, all these different things. He just wants some guy that's going to come in and do it, and some guy that he trusts. So that Brad's concept of being able to go to those guys, and I felt like Brad and I were professional enough, educated enough, and those people wanted to deal with someone that was educated and professional. And once we found that out, then that really opened the doors.
Yeah, what people want is somebody to take away their problems. And they don't want that problem coming back and being dropped back on them. And what I mean is it's basically customer service. And what Jay was saying about the volume, the way Enterprise was able to grow so successfully, so rapidly, is they had never had the desire to even be on airport in the beginning. They didn't want to be on airport. Customers who used us routinely would say, why aren't you on the airport? Well, airport's expensive, very expensive. Margins are very, very low. And then this was our opinion back then. I don't know what they are now in reality. They might be laughing if they listen to this. But the other thing was that customer, if you go on vacation, you go on a business trip, you rent a car for 1 day, 5 days, maybe 7 to 10 max. Well, the Enterprise model was, let Hertz and Avis have that. Let's focus on the local market and go to your insurance agent, your State Farm adjuster. And here's a girl who just graduated college who's handed over 100 auto claims, and 60 of those people need rental cars. And the average length of that rental car is 25 days. So you discount the rate, you do it in volume, and you market to that one insurance adjuster who's managing those 100 files, and you take them Chick-fil-A breakfast, or you take them out to a cocktail hour, and you entertain the office, and you get to know them personally, and you build a relationship, and you say, you send me your business and I'll keep them off your plate. I'll solve their problems. If something goes wrong, for instance, they go find a rinky-dink rental car from another company, and they're calling back in saying, the rental car you got me smells inside, okay? Or whatever the complaint may be. You build that customer service, and you get that trust in that adjuster. They send you all their business. There may be 60 adjusters in one building. You get all 60 of those people sending you all your business. Then you go to the next insurance company. Well, our model was, let's do that in property management. Property management, all these commercial buildings that you see out there, they hire a property management company to take care of all the parking lots, the roofs, the AC units. Well, those people, a lot of times, college educated, working in Buckhead, parking, they don't know anything about a parking lot. Well, we do a lunch and learn. We come in, we meet them. Next thing you know, they're handling one of those property managers might be handling 12 to 20 commercial real estate properties throughout the Atlanta market. You start doing their business, and then it may not be a repeat every week or every month, but every year. You're getting, if they've got 4 paving projects out of their 20, you get those 4, and it almost becomes repetitive, and you just start filling your funnel. And by the time Jay and I even hired our first sales rep, he and I had the reason we hired a sales rep was because he and I had so much repeat business year after year after year. There's parking lots in the Atlanta market that we have either paved, seal coated, or patched 10 times in the last 15 years.
Wow.
Same parking lot. It was just repeat. Our employees got to know these parking lots. Now, parking lot project might not last 2 or 3 days, so we're jumping around from parking lot to parking lot. You start adding them up, and it becomes very, very lucrative.
The other thing we found was too that they would have to go to somebody for seal coat. They have to go to somebody for asphalt. They go to somebody for a curb, or they have to go, and we just said, hey, we'll do it all. So everything you need for that parking lot, we'll do. I mean, it got to the point where they were even asking us, hey, can you fix the lights? Can you clean the parking lots? Can you clean the trash? I mean, we could have even grown it farther, but we stuck to our lane. And then, like Brad said, they would have 20 in Atlanta. Well, they may have 3 in Birmingham, 2 in Jacksonville, 2 in the Panhandle. And we're like, well, we'll just take those 2. So then the next thing you know, we're loading up trucks and buying trucks. And because we didn't want the guy from Birmingham coming over to Atlanta and getting the 20, we'd rather go to Birmingham, get the 3, and keep our 20. So that's kind of how it continued to grow. And we always stayed in our lane. So we knew what we were good at. So we were good at parking lot repairs, striping, potholes, and that's the lane we stayed in. We didn't try to do roads. We didn't try to do get off track. We just stayed on that track the whole time.
So you obviously scaled pretty quickly. When you started hiring those first sales rep, those first people, what were you looking for, and how quickly did that happen?
Well, we didn't really expect a real return from that sales rep for probably a year, because it's a slower process. By the time they get a budget, by the time you give them an estimate, and by the time they pull the trigger, it could be a year, it could be 3 years. An example would be, okay, we pulled the trigger on the parking lot, but the roof had a leak, HVAC system went out. Well, the parking lot got pushed back a year. So we just knew we were having to make an investment for the long run.
But I guess even the drivers, the crews, what were y'all looking for in terms of people when y'all had a vision of the culture that Blackjack was going to be?
Somebody that knew more than we did about how to operate it.
Was there a key hire that you made that knew how to pave, like new parking lot?
All along the way, we were very fortunate to be tied into several really qualified, good people who helped us. They all kind of, we grew through their we grew through the Peter Principle with them. I don't know if you know what the Peter Principle is, but Peter Principle is where you get promoted to the point of your own incompetence. We grew to the point where they couldn't keep up with the level of growth that we were having.
Yeah.
And then we're very fortunate enough to be tied in with other people that were very talented and pulled together. But that is, to answer your question, it is the people point was the hardest part for us.
Yeah.
But I will say on the people part, which will go back to really almost the very beginning of the business, our business model was, and Brad and I never took one dime out of the business for 3 years because our business was growing so fast that we just put everything back into the business and tried to survive for the first 3 years. But really, our goal is that we had a community pool, and Brad and I would be at that pool, and we'd be like, one day I want those guys doing the work, and I want to be sitting at the pool. So that was kind of the whole focus is that we want to have a business that is self-sustaining. So I would rather, and we both agreed, that we would rather just put all the money into the business and keep growing it, get the best equipment, the best people, bonus them all the time, pay them off the profitability so that it was self-sustaining. So it wasn't entirely dependent on Brad and I, and that's what we achieved. And ultimately, even though that was not our goal, that's why private equity wanted us, is because we had a great image, a great reputation, and they came calling. So, and they liked the fact that we didn't have to, they were buying a business that was not dependent on me and it was not dependent on Brad.
Yeah.
And we had other competitors in the business that were making probably just as much money, but they were the ones doing the business. They were the ones that were out there managing the job. They were the ones out there doing it. So they kind of maxed their level, and we just wanted to grow it to a much higher level. Would you agree, Brad? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Why do you think so many businesses and business owners don't make it to that point? There's a probably percentage of businesses that fail, in their first 5 years, and there's a different percentage for those who make it to 5 million in revenue. But then the percentage of those people who build a business that doesn't actually require them is even less. So, how do you think you did that? What advice would you have for a business owner who wants that but just doesn't know how?
You have to have a good mirror and be able to look into it, and you have to be able to identify what you're really, really good at and what you're really, really not good at, and quickly get rid of the things that you're not good at and get somebody who is really good at that in there, and then slowly train somebody that's good at what you are and train them to come in and help that piece. So like I was saying before, our operations piece was our biggest challenge, and that was Jay and I's biggest weakness. So it was years and years before we hired another sales rep. That's what we were good at. We ended up hiring accounting and administrative people before we hired a sales rep. The reason was we were doing the accounting, we were doing the administrative work, but that wasn't what we were good at either. We needed, people.
Are you good at sales?
We were good at sales. So, finding that operations person, key, identifying where are our other weaknesses and where are our strengths. Hiring a sales rep was not going to do us any good. They weren't going to sell better than Jay and I. But hiring somebody to give Jay and I more time to sell, that would do better. So slowly, you got to identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses. Your biggest weakness, you got to fill it quick. Get somebody in there that can, and if it's an external source, it might be an external source. Sometimes you have to hire it internally. Marketing, absolutely. If we want to talk marketing, we outgrew our marketing. Door to door, it's over. You can't even get in the door. 90% of the places.
How long did it take to outgrow that?
Oh, it went quick.
Yeah.
But, technology in general. Our proposals were copy and paste pictures. Our proposals were absolutely generated by Jay and I's own imagination and word in a computer. That your proposal is part of marketing, along with your, any type of presentation and so forth. So all that changed rather quickly. We probably switched over to a more formal, appropriate proposal in about 4 years or less. I mean, I don't know where exactly the timeline came in, but it just continually changed. The marketing piece, not necessarily Yellow Book advertisement wasn't our niche, but going after the Atlanta Apartment Association, identifying that because multi-family is really big on they got big parking lots and they got to turn over. So they're very conscious about what their parking lots look like. So that was a huge one for us. We spent a lot of time in person. We spent a lot of time advertising in all of their activities and any publications
shows
that they had. That's all changed. They don't pay attention to paper that comes in the mail. They don't pay attention to association magazines. It's all online stuff. It's all in their LinkedIn connections and whatever it might be. So that changed really, really quick, and that was something Jay and I realized as it was changing that it had outgrown us, the actual marketing piece.
Do y'all think that y'all could have grinded your way to the size that you ended up? Just based off your cold calling and door knocking, or did that additional piece of marketing and the additional leads, what size factor did that play in the scale of the company?
It was very, very instrumental in our continued growth. Would we have continued to grow? Yes. Would it have been organic in our own customer base? Absolutely. Outsourcing our marketing put the gas pedal to the floor and brought us in a lot of new customers and a lot of people that our approach would never have reached.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we were all about, I mean, I said from the very beginning, we sold something and then we figured out how to do it. And with this case, with things like marketing, I feel like it just, and what y'all provided, I mean, it really pushed us to a level of wildness, of wow. I mean, look at that website, or these guys must really be, they really must be I don't want to say
The best of the
shit, but they're the guys. I mean, they're the guys, and so I think and plus all the pieces that you were able to add to it in terms of tracking and where it was coming from and how we spend the dollars. I mean, all that thing was very instrumental, but it definitely accelerated our image to who we were after and really helped propel us grow.
One of the things I think I get to learn so much from these conversations, and the theme that I've heard through all of the conversations that I've had and all the podcast episodes thus far, is when we ask about, hey, what caused your business to grow? What you said about not taking a paycheck for 3 years, or about just reinvesting in the business. The term that comes to mind is delayed gratification. Just like continually thinking futuristic, pushing forward. So going back to your marketing and those first conversations we were having, I don't know which one of you guys said it, but at one point you said, well, and I actually now tell this to almost every company we talk to. I say, listen, whatever you spend in marketing, if you have really big growth goals, that's probably the smallest piece of the investment you're going to make in terms of people and equipment and all the other expenses that come with growth. So can you guys talk us through like when y'all started to grow exponentially, like what other types of investments had to be made and how quickly that had to happen?
The equipment, the sales force, the thing about the calls coming in, the leads coming in, you got to go. People want people to see a person within the next 24 hours on their parking lot, meeting with them to solve their problem. You let that problem fester for 36 hours. If they haven't found somebody, they're moving on. It's not a priority. So I think our sales force doubled in probably 12 to 24 months. Our sales force went from about 3.5 people to 6. We were quickly at eight sales reps in less than 2 years. Equipment, that was a real push. everything hit at a really, really good time for us, in the sense that we had growth. We had profitability coming our way. We had the capital to reinvest, and we continue to reinvest. So the windfall on Jay and I's side still hasn't come. But the transactions were there, and it was just the paving equipment is very expensive.
Yeah.
And investing in, and we had a mentality for years that because of the recession, we saw so many people that were over leveraged. We didn't leverage our first piece of equipment probably till 10 years in.
Wow.
And then it just got, the only reason we started getting into the leverage business was because we needed them to generate the continue to growth. And so our motto changed from not never, kind of like the Dave Ramsey model. Mm-hmm. The Dave Ramsey model allows you to borrow money for your house, because in a sense, it's an investment. Everything else is debt. Everything else is depreciating. Well, we allowed ourselves to invest in the moneymaker machine, the paver. So we would finance the paver, the milling machines, the monsters that were going out there, and we're going to run for years and years. And then the pickup trucks and the small rollers and that kind of stuff, those still we kept paying that at a capital expenditures, as far as, because we just kept our debt down.
Did y'all have like a sophisticated financial model in place where y'all saw the lead flow coming in and you're like, okay, were y'all talking at that time about an exit, and you're running the math in that way, saying, well, we understand that if we have these many leads coming in, we convert this much, it's going to be this much revenue, and we can roll it forward? Were y'all thinking about an exit at that time? Because I know it was only almost three years after we started working with you guys. So I was curious, like, was that something y'all were talking about?
I don't remember us really having an exit plan per se.
Really?
I mean, did we? I don't remember us kind of having those conversations.
We didn't have an exit plan, if that's the question.
Yeah.
So walk us through that story. Like, you are investing out of a profitable business. It grew. What was the numbers again? From like 5 at the time. How many million did y'all grow it by?
When we sold, we were close to 25 million. It was in that 23, 24, somewhere in there when we sold.
And the previous 3 years were pretty rapid growth. So at what point
I mean, COVID, all those things really actually propelled our growth. I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Yeah, so
exactly.
At what point did y'all get, I guess, contacted by private equity to...
Oh, we were contacted all the time. I mean, we got continuous people wanting to buy us, and we were always just didn't really have an interest until I think you came across that one guy called you, and we're like, maybe we need to look at this one.
What made the difference in that one contact?
They hired a marketing firm, quite frankly. They hired a marketing firm, and the marketing firm was very creative at their approach, and it piqued my interest. And when Jay says that we had been approached, we were approached by a lot of people. Now, they didn't really know the inside scoop to see exactly how profitable or professional or successful that we were. There was a lot of fishermen out there, and we got fished a lot. And we just quit even nibbling on the bait. We looked at it early on, and it was private equity can be a monster to deal with. And there's a lot of private equity companies that you don't want to deal with. So, and we ran into a couple of those, and then we said, we're not doing this. That's just kind of a sham. Well, they hired a marketing company, and the marketing company was very creative with using our brand and our logo to remarket themselves back to us, which stroked my ego a little bit. And, in hindsight, looking back, what was intriguing about their marketing approach? I don't know, but it piqued my interest. So, whatever it was got my attention, and we did not have a marketing or an exit plan. So there was conversations about we never got specific, but we would talk options. I think the consensus, without verbally saying it. I think Jay and I thought we would be in the business and working it until we couldn't do it anymore. And we had done a very good job of making it self-sustaining and self-fulfilling. And so we were able to kind of step away. We didn't have any type of internal succession plan, and kind of we're missing some key people that we knew were going to need for us to completely step away. And that's when I suggested, hey, what if we took this call? It's a little bit intriguing. And then they gathered enough information off that initial call that they put on the full court press. And then after that, it probably was it seems like it was close to a year of just conversations that didn't seem like they were going extremely fast, and we thought it would never come to fruition. And then they really put the pedal down in.
But they had some pretty big players that they had bought that we knew that were bigger than us. So we were like, oh, that kind of, maybe we need to look at this a little closer.
So we'll peel back the curtain a little bit. Like, what was that thought process like in terms of that year of them pursuing you? And what advice would you give to anyone that's maybe in that position, thinking about, selling their business? What are they getting into?
After that.
Brad said we were going to pull out some demons on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk that one.
I don't know.
That was tough, man.
Get a good M&A attorney.
Yeah.
And make sure you get good, highly qualified and highly recommended and specific in the M&A business, because those guys know what they're doing. And then when you get on that horse, stay on it, because you bought the horse, you're riding the horse, you're going to want to get off that horse about halfway, 3/4 of the way through. And that horse is going to get you there. You bought it, you're riding it, you got to ride it to the end and follow their direction. It was a tough year.
That was a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And what made it good for us in terms of our books were clean. We didn't live out of the business. If there's anything we took that was related to customers, it was always under executive travel. So if there was anything, we knew exactly where everything was. So our books were really clean. I thought I think it made it easy from that standpoint.
So how did that process like bring frustration? I'm still missing like maybe an illustration.
Well, okay, in life, in business, the goal is to get as much as you can for as little as it costs you, right? And these M&A or these private equity people, they're hiring people, and their goal is to. I think I mentioned this at lunch. It's kind of like these musicians back in the day. You always hear about these bad music contracts that they signed. Well, they were just so excited to get to sign a music contract that they didn't. And even if they had somebody look at it, people were telling them, it's a good contract. And they didn't find out until 10, 15 years later that it was a shitty contract, and they lost all their rights, and they were making no money, and it was terrible. Well, there is a ton of negotiations that are just like them trying to get you to sign a shitty freaking contract. And if you have a good M&A attorney, he's going to be able to apply. He does it all the time. That's what he does. And he's going to say, this is not in your favor. And as much as the other side's going to try to belittle it and say, that'll never come into play, you're making a bigger deal, or your attorney's making a bigger deal out of it than it is. When your attorney says, I'm telling you, that's important and you need it, stay on the horse. Stay with the attorney. And it's going to happen. And once you turn that page and you think, okay, what's really funny is how many times we got them to concede. We thought our attorney was asking way too much. We thought that their side was much more compassionate and much more understanding and much more handshaking. And we thought our attorney was going in there and asking us to throw mud in the face of a guy that was trying to be our friend. So he's making us go in there and ask for things that we didn't think even mattered because they seemed like they were very reasonable. And then they'd turn around and be like, okay, we don't need that. Wow. And we just fought over it for sometimes days, weeks.
How many times do you think the deal was over?
Oh my God.
I would
don't know,
say
I was going to say 8.
I was going to say 6.
Yeah, somewhere in that.
Wow.
So say 7. Meet in the middle.
But once you would turn the page on that problem and you think, okay, now we're soldiering on, then the next stage, here it comes again, and it's another problem. And sometimes it was bigger, and sometimes it wasn't, but it was all the time. It's like, are you kidding me?
One of the big ones was the earnout, and we were both not. I mean, the offer they made, I thought was fair to begin with, but that's what kind of drew out the process a little bit, is because it was fair, but it wasn't like, wow. Mm-hmm. So then when they came back and sweetened it with earnout, we were like, okay, that's good, but I don't know. The earnout was a major contention with the attorneys, with us. We never felt right about it.
How long was there not going to be? Did they propose?
For 2 years.
2 years.
I mean, there was at the end of 1 year there was an earnout, and at the second year there was another earnout, and we just didn't like it. I mean, because basically when you're selling to the private equity company, you're losing control. Yeah. So, we could end up losing that money. But once they took the earnout out and gave us all the money, then we were in.
So other than hiring a good M&A attorney, any other advice you'd give?
Have clean books.
Yeah.
So if y'all circle back, I mean, all the way, because I know we've talked a lot about the website over the years and the brand and kind of the backing that it gave y'all's sales initiatives, where like not only were these professional guys here, but this brand that they now have also gives us confidence in them. How much did that push y'all's business forward? I mean, at that time.
I'm thinking about your question. I'm trying to think about the time.
What year was that?
Yeah. Do you remember what year that
2019?
was?
Yeah, it's 2019.
Reason I'm thinking is because we had that end of the year Christmas party. That's what I'm kind of referring back to. So I'm thinking about who we had and how excited we were that we had gotten to $8 million. And it seems like within that next year, maybe heading into COVID and all that, I mean, we immediately jumped to probably 15, something like that, would you say?
Yeah.
Brad?
I think
it was a pretty rapid, but there was a whole succession of things with it. It was the timing of it. It was having you guys come in, but we were also fortunate enough that we had added people. So we were able to take the load, and some of those people had been with us for probably at least 6 months. So we were coming into, we had kind of ramped up our office staff, ramped up our sales capacity. We were almost, and that's another thing about business too, is that a lot of times your investment doesn't match what your capacity is. So with you guys, we were at a point where, sometimes you have to spend more, and your capacity is lower than what your potential capacity can be. So you guys helped us grow to what that capacity was based off of our investment.
So investment ready for the growth
of people and investment in our equipment. So at that time, I think we invested enough in equipment and people to say hit $12 million. I can't remember exactly what that number was, but we were probably doing 8. So we immediately were able to accelerate based off of our capacity. And that's a lot of times how business works. I mean, you just don't go out and buy something and say, okay, this is going to get me an extra $100,000. No, you buy the way you were able to buy things. It's just the way it works. I mean, now your capacity is 300,000 more. So now you got to figure out a way to match the 300,000. And then how do you get it at the 300,000 where you feel like the wheels are falling off, but they're not, and you're maximizing your profitability.
Yeah.
When the wheels are about to fall off, that's when you're maximizing your capacity. I mean, everybody's like, I can't go another day, and please don't make me work another 10 hours. That's when you're maximizing. So then you go out and buy more equipment, hire more people, increase your advertising, and now all of a sudden then you're increasing to what that capacity is.
Yeah. But if you don't have the capacity to do the sales, then the delivery, then whatever you spend on marketing, if you can't answer the phone or can't get out on that phone, you wasted the dollar on marketing to begin with.
Right.
So, yeah.
Mitchell, I've got to expand on your question as far as the professionalism that the website and the taking our website to the next level and our marketing in general, I would compare it to dressing for the position that you want, not for the position that you have. And what I feel like it did for us is the customers that we wanted were not the driveways, individual driveway. An individual driveway is a one-hit wonder. He wants it perfect. He's going to be there the whole day while you're doing it. Every little thing's going to be scrutinized, and very, very low margin because you're competing against mom and pop. He knows somebody down the street that said they could do it for this much money, so your pricing is low. If I want something individually done at my house, I generally probably use a local small-time business guy as opposed to calling the big conglomerate. Well, if you want to do commercial business, then they got to be able to go online and they got to justify what they're doing. If they go online and you don't have a professional website, or your website looks like, you look like a mom and pop shop, their confidence isn't there, because what they want is they want somebody that knows what they're doing, that's been in business for a long time, that's going to come out and do the job right and be able to back it up and substantiate it. If anybody's had problems with home improvement projects and contractors, a lot of them are all the same. They just go for that one job and then they're out the door, and the follow up and the fixing and stuff like that takes backseat because it's not revenue generating anymore, and I can't get him on the phone and that kind of stuff. Well, if you try to get on his website to see, he doesn't have one, or if he does have a website, it kind of tells you, okay, this is who I'm dealing with. Is the price cheaper? Probably. But we all kind of know what we're getting when we hire an individual contractor to come in and do a project. If you hire a professional business that's established and you get online and it looks like their website is, that might have been created in 2008. That's kind of who or it's like, hey, look what these guys have done. And if it's constantly being updated, and if the sales force has got the headshots and they can see who they're dealing with, and they can feel like, and they can build relationships with those people. I just think it's huge. It's dressing for the part that you want. If you want to be the general manager or the CEO, people that get promoted up to that position were playing that role along the way.
That's why I matched David today.
Yeah.
Well said. I want to go back to talk about y'all's partnership, because I think that's something that would be very interesting to a lot of business owners, like along that way. I know we talked about at the beginning, like what that conversation was like, but tell us about how y'all manage potential disagreements, conflicts along that way. Like, what do you think has made your partnership successful?
Well, I think we had to both agree or it didn't get done.
Yeah.
I mean, that was number one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to do it and he didn't, then we didn't do it. That's kind of how that worked. I don't know what would you?
Because I'm sure y'all have seen people have conflicts in partnerships.
To me, I think that we're good. I always felt like Brad and I were good at feeding off of each other in terms of, I knew what his strengths are. I mean, he's probably a little more conservative with me, which is the way I need to be. I may have been a little more aggressive, and he probably, we're able to come to that medium. And I think it was a good way of stretching each of us in terms of what our personalities were. But, I still really cared about him, and we got along well, traveled together. I mean, I don't know what, I'm probably rambling on that question, but
we're very fortunate because I've talked to a lot of business partnerships that did not work out, and it's definitely a marriage. Mm-hmm. It's a business marriage. It's funny. There's nothing wrong with this, but when we first got in business together, we would introduce each other as our partner. This is my partner, and suddenly we were getting some reactions that I wasn't expecting it. So this is my business partner.
I'm married.
This is my business partner. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of a funny thing.
Well, y'all said at the beginning of the story you are in transition, when you're getting, your partnership started.
Right.
So we're laughing now, and I can guarantee you that's a lot of it too, is we had a lot of fun along the way. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of camaraderie and fun.
Brad's got an incredible sense of humor, so you're always going to be laughing.
We had a lot of fun. We went through a lot of shit together. With in that first year, we were out at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, striping parking lots. He and I. That's not what we were good at, but it's what we had to do to get it done. I forget more stories than I can tell you about extreme situations that we put ourselves into, long hours, late nights. Mm-hmm. But we did it together. And if we weren't together, we were calling each other the next morning or to let each other know what we had done and what we might need help with, and we helped each other out. And I think all along, throughout the whole thing, in the business world specifically, we appreciated what the other person brought to the table. And I've always been able to say to myself that I know I wouldn't have been as successful if it wasn't for Jay. I don't know that he can say that.
I feel the same way. Absolutely.
So how did y'all take that? Because y'all's partnership, when you walked in, I walked into the Blackjack office 3 years ago, and the whole building, the team kind of has y'all's energy. How did you build that? I mean, was it just like the right hires over time? Like, how did you instill, we're going to have fun, we're going to be professional, we're going to sell, all those things that you can feel when you walk in that building?
I think that they knew when it was time to have fun and time to work, but Brad and I always judged how good our company was doing by the amount of laughter that we heard in the building. So we would sit in our office and be like, you hear those guys laughing? I mean, that makes you feel good when people are at least having fun, but things were getting done as well. And I think it also helped that even though myself or Brad didn't know how to run the paving machine, if someone wasn't there, I was out there on the paving crew and I was shoveling asphalt out of the paver, or something was happening and they needed to go pop lines for a striper. I was out there doing it, and so was Brad. I mean, we were out there in the heat and bringing them lunch and thanking them. I think that's how it was able to build.
Yeah,
it's awesome. How would you answer that question?
How do we build that culture?
Yeah.
I don't know what the secret recipe is. I just know that you got to treat people the way you want to be treated. You got to expect results, but at the same time, you've got to be able to train and develop and set reasonable expectations. Hiring right is key. Hiring right is really key. Not that we always do it right, but that's always been a difficult challenge. But when you got the right person, I think we compensated our people well too. Another thing we did was we implemented a profit sharing, in a sense that we paid people off the bottom line. And when the business was really rolling, that was a good bonus for them.
We paid that monthly. Mm-hmm. So they liked getting that bonus check every month.
One of the things that I remember is in that first onboarding shoot with Blackjack, doing that interview with your employees. I think that was the first time I ever had an employee cry on camera talking about you guys, like talking about an owner at their company. And it's probably one of the most common videos that I show to people to this day when we talk about the value of culture, and especially in the last year, I think we've had more people that their primary need in terms of us marketing is helping them reach employees, like helping them reach potential talent. And I showed that video because I think it illustrates from the mouth of an employee, like how much value he placed in both of you. Like he talked about, he was going through something hard. His mom had, I think, leukemia. Mm-hmm. And he literally cried talking about you guys and how y'all supported. He didn't feel like just an employee, but he felt like, you really cared about him. So my question is, why did y'all decide to do that? Like, why did you just, what was it inside of you that made you say, this is how we're going to treat people?
I think some of it is how you were treated. I mean, I think Brad and I probably were in a culture where the employee wasn't valued, and you just expected to work like a horse, work like a dog, and treated like a dog. And I just remember, if I get in that position, I am not going to treat my people like that. So that's kind of, I think, what it comes from. I think it's just a different generation, a different era of how I feel like we were treated. And Brad could probably attest to the same thing that I'm saying.
I'd been in good cultures and bad cultures.
Yeah, I've been in both.
And the good ones were motivating. They gave you all the right emotions that you wanted to run through the wall for those people. You're working for somebody that you just want to do it for them. And then the bad ones, it's just completely opposite. So there's probably some method to the madness that did help in that. The light bulb's just not turning on right now. But treat people the way you want to be treated. I have fired a lot of people, but I never fired one. They all fired themselves, meaning they all knew their expectations. They all knew what right from wrong. And, my job is to promote people, not to fire people. My job is to create opportunities, not to weed you out. I've been in organizations that felt like they're just trying to weed people out. That's not motivating.
Yeah.
So manage people in, but at the same time, you got to have clear expectations. You got to have, you got to have, and ethics is ethics is number one.
Yeah.
And people want to work with and around people that are also ethical. If you've ever been around a crooked person, somebody who's fudging numbers or doing something, that's not a career, that's a job, and that's a short-lived job.
Yeah.
That's that mentality, and somebody might get promoted in that situation on faking numbers or fudging the system. But in the end, people who are going to be successful are doing it for the right reasons.
That's awesome.
Do you have a question you want to end with? Because I have one.
Go for it.
So I know you told us, are you sure that I'm the guy you want on this podcast? We're dinosaurs in this industry. Everything's changing. What we did is not what people should be doing now. But y'all obviously have eyes on the changing landscape of marketing, AI, technology. If you were doing this right now, what would you do differently? Or how would you start your company in 2025?
Well, first off, I said Jay's a dinosaur.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
What would I do? That's a tough question too, because would I do it again? I don't know that I've got it in me to do it again. So it's really hard to, because that's how much it took. I would not be going cold calling. I would, what's funny is that business cards were huge and pamphlets were huge in a marketing sense. The marketing thing would be completely different. In fact, if I started out and, hey, we got to go market this thing, it would all be internet. It would all be, the
social media
type.
So he would call us.
Yeah. I would
Would have called us sooner.
Yeah.
Well, you have to.
You got to put something into play here, though, too. You're worth the money, but it takes money, and somebody starting from scratch isn't necessarily going to be able to afford. I didn't go out and buy a brand new paver. We bought an old run down paver that was on it. Our first paver was not the best marketing team in the world. Not that saying you're the best marketing team in the world. But maybe you are.
You don't have to say that.
Edit that, please. Edit.
You should change your name to the best marketing team in the world.
That's a great idea. I'll consider it.
We just say the Blackjack guys are sitting by a pool right now. That's all you need to know.
So I don't know if I answered your question. It would be, our marketing would not have been what it was. It would be a different world. What would you have done? What would you do now if you were starting?
I would agree. I mean, you have you would almost be asking AI what it is that you're supposed to do. I mean, it's become to that level of having to reach the people. I think platforms like LinkedIn, when you're trying to reach the management people, I think is probably another avenue that was not available when we started, because there you can really try and target who you're going after. So
We would number one need a website immediately that looked like we were something
right.
substantial or something at least. Then number two, we would need to use somebody's resources to identify, like we could give you the titles and the type of people that we would be looking to market, but we'd need to get help to find those people. And I would use resources to find the people that in my example, the insurance adjuster, but only in the asphalt paving industry. Who are the people that are managing properties or own multiple properties? Then how are we going to market to them? And when we market it to them, if we get them to click, it's got to look legit.
You're actually describing typically the package and suite of services that we now sell to a company that's usually younger and starting out, because like the mass marketing and the pay-per-click world, it's more expensive. But now, we didn't do this for you guys because we didn't offer it. But now we have an outsourced sales team that will literally prospect, find the ideal client, do the research on phone number, cell phone, email, put together a script, omni-channel touchpoint system, and we can actually even execute the calls, the emails, all of the mailings and all the touch points. Essentially, the things you were doing, dropping by someone's office, we'll do that for someone to help them, kind of get started and scale their sales team. So,
now, I do think that personal relationships matter. It's kind of a shame that in our world, things have gotten so far away, so it makes it harder and harder to develop those personal relationships. And I think using resources that like you're describing or that we're talking about, but then going and visiting and saying, hey, making that appointment.
For sure.
And building that relationship and trust through the online stuff. Yeah. But then, you
got to be there.
Can I take you to lunch? Can I stop by your office in the morning? Nowadays, dropping in without an appointment is probably really, really frowned upon.
Yeah.
But at least, getting those right contacts of those people and then building that relationship, because in any industry, something's going to go.
Matters.
Yeah. Well, and the tools now just basically allow you to break through to the key decision maker faster.
Yeah.
Which then allow you to do what you do best, which is go close.
Yeah.
And we get that feedback quite often from the partners that we visit all over the country. It's like they've said, like, you're the only company that ever came to us and actually sat in front of us and had a conversation. Because you're right, those relationships really are everything. So
yeah. A lot of people don't buy anything that they know nothing about. And it's hard to get to, you get all kinds of ads, but when you finally can get somebody to tell you what they're actually selling, you got a better chance of buying.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, especially marketing, comes down to there's no click funnel, there's no silver bullet in marketing that makes every business successful. It comes down to like people. Do you have a team of people that are ready to do the work for you? Do they care about you? Do they actually understand you and your ideal customer? And that's what it comes down to. You got to have the people. So, which is why y'all been such great partners, because y'all are awesome people. And I'm very thankful for you guys coming in and sharing your wisdom with us and just being a fun group of guys to be around. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
We feel the same. Yeah. It's been a fun ride with you guys. It really has.
Yeah.
And we've appreciated everything that you've done for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, you guys get back to the pool, okay?
Yeah. Back to the lake.